slough it off. Bothered me. Corporation's an artificial person. It's created. Get this, you incorporated church people. The non-profit corporation is created for the benefit of the public. And a non-profit corporation is granted, it's a privilege granted by the state. Now, whenever the state grants you a privilege, in this hand, they take it away with this hand, as you will see. Now, there's a very famous case called Hale versus Hinkle, and all the way to the Supreme Court. And this case was very important because it wanted to make sure that there was a clear distinction between a person and a corporation. Now, a person is like me and you, living and breathing. Corporation doesn't live or breathe. It doesn't contribute anything. A corporation is vested with certain privileges, and beyond that, there's nothing. Let's look at the dirty side of a 501c3 corporation. It may exist in perpetuity. What's that? It's one of the worst hooks that ever happens to the church. In perpetuity means forever. They throw that word may in there just to fool you. It exists forever. The 501c3 nonprofit corporation is required by law to serve the state. The nonprofit corporation must support the government agenda and all public policy. What would that be? You can give me an idea what public policy is now.
Homosexuality?
Yeah. I just found out yesterday that 30 states now have approved homosexual marriage. I didn't know what that meant. 30 states. So the church, or whoever becomes a 501c3, must support public policy. 501c3 corporation allegedly has limited liability protection. Notice I use the word allegedly. We're going to get into that. 501c3 corporation, whether you're a church, a religious organization, or an art museum, according to the government, you're just another business. You're a commercial entity. 501c3 corporation can sue and be sued. The New Testament church, the unincorporated church, can't be sued. It's a spiritual entity. The law recognizes that the church is not an entity under the law. That's all written down. Members of the corporation do not own any assets. And the corporation is generally governed by a board of directors. Here's a really unique little cute thing about the nonprofit corporation, the incorporated church, if you will. Say you own a big building, you've got pews and all kinds of furniture inside. You own a bus, this is all insured, maybe a parsonage, and you guys suddenly decide you want to get out of this 501c3 status. See, there is no getting out. If you determine that you want out, you must first give all of your assets to another 501c3 corporation. Now, if you can't find somebody to give it to, believe me, the government will give you one. So now you're getting out of the 501c3 corporation, and you have nothing left. You have no building, no car, which is fine. New Testament church, they didn't own anything. They met in secret. So I'm not saying I'm just trying to make you understand what is involved. There is no getting out. It is a hook, just like in the fish, the jaw of the fish. It was deliberately set up that way. But see, there's really nothing new under the sun. Rome designed this in 250 BC. Rome had the first corporations. The New Testament church was kind of secret because Rome demanded that you have a license. See, they didn't care. There were enough gods in Rome to go around. They could care less which god you worship. They just wanted you to get permission, a license, if you will. So incorporation is not really anything new. Rome controlled all personal liberties. And they were pretty good at it. When you sign the application, it's a 1023, huge document. Generally, a church will do the first 48 pages. When you sign that agreement, you're entering into a contract with the state. So, say your pastor isn't too bright, and he realizes what he did. Now he wants out of the contract. Really? So he's going to go now and argue with the government. Well, I didn't realize that these were the rules of this contract. And he comes in with his Bible. We can't do this. We're a Bible-believing church. This corporation's wrong. Guess what? That Bible cannot be used as evidence. Why? The Bible wasn't part of the original contract. That contract was established under federal and state law, not under biblical law. So can you imagine now, pastor running in with his Bible? Would have no merit. Couldn't even be used in court. In order for you to argue with the government under this contract that you have entered into, it has to be part of the original contract. Who governed your signature? The federal statutes, U.S. Code. Okay. Pastor Baldwin and I were talking about this. You know, I've got all kinds of pastors that tell me, oh, Barbara, you're nuts. Nobody tells me what I can preach from my pulpit. Really? Okay, moving right along. Well, listen to this, Barbara. When they start trying to tell me what I can preach from the pulpit, then I'll get out, and you're a liar. But you won't get out then, because then it will really be hot and heavy. And like Winston Churchill said, if you will not fight for the right, when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a small chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than to live as a slave. So see, when a pastor tells me he'll fight when he gets to that point, to lie. He won't. He's hoping all this will just kind of float away, pass away. Okay. If you guys have, I guess we're going to wait till the end for questions, right?
Yeah.
Let's continue about the corporation, the 501c3. Also, when you support government polity, you're supporting great organizations like Wicca, Planned Parenthood, other satanic organizations. The government looks at your church as nothing more than a for-profit business. You can call yourself nonprofit, that's a taxable designation. But they look at you as just a regular business. You are a commercial entity. They used to say that corporations couldn't be indicted. That's not true. A corporation can be indicted if you fail to perform your public duty under your 501c3. They can be indicted. Just like the members of an incorporated church are listed as assets with the IRS. Did you know you're an asset? Assets. And I guess you think, as a member of that incorporated church, you're not liable for the debts of that church, right? Wrong. There's a maxim in the law that says, if you benefit, you're responsible for the debt. So since the word church service, the word service is a commercial word under government designation. So you are benefiting from the church service, therefore you are liable for the debt. Now how about if the preacher goes off the rail and steals $4 million under an incorporated church? Are the members liable? It's the answer. Yeah, they're liable. It has to go to court. But a judge can and has said, yes, you are liable for that debt. And assess each one. I know you think these are horror stories. They're much more common than you might believe. When the church forms a contract with the government, it is an unholy alliance. First of all, the church doesn't become a corporation, and the corporation doesn't become the church. What they have is a symbiotic relationship. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's the relationship between the church and the government when they incorporate. The main problem, there are a lot of problems, but the main problem with a church incorporating is that they are displacing the lordship of Christ over his own body, which is the church. He is the head of the church in all things. And the corporation usurps his authority. And why would a church give up? You know, the IRS will tell you, oh, it's a big advantage if you incorporate. What's the advantage? What's the advantage? For the Lord's church to give up its sovereign position in order to have a letter from the IRS hanging in the office that says your donations are tax deductible. You know, did you ever think about it? I wonder if this makes the Lord cry that his people only give their tithes and offerings because they're promised by the miserable government to get 35% of it, or a portion thereof, back on their tax returns. You know, whatever happens, the Lord loves a cheerful giver. I think it makes him very sad